And it's not because I'm getting older.
I don't know about that.
Morning, Greg.
Morning, Mike.
Thanks for helping out Julie with my Christmas present.
You're very welcome.
That was
You're
pretty
very-
nice of you.
You're very deserving, and you know what, Mike, that really is a great example of how true it is to how much better it is to give than receive. But you're very deserving of that, and I'm very happy, and I'm glad your wife is fun to work with. You really did marry up just like me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Well, I appreciate what you did. That was great. $8:58, 2 minutes.
My screen is shared, correct? Just making sure. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay.
I can anyways.
Yeah, I can too.
Perfect.
It is.
I like this. This works with extended screen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have 9 o'clock. The meeting of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners will come to order. Please stand and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Morning.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Winter, not on. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carried. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none right now.
Hearing none. Commissioners, could I get a motion in a second?
Commissioner Chair, Mike Wilson makes a
Motion made by
motion.
Commissioner Wilson. Second by
Second by
Commissioner
Commissioner
Jelinski. Discussion. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter, absent. First on the agenda, public health report. Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Brad.
Morning, Brad.
Morning.
The first thing I have on the
Morning, Brett.
agenda is a backup water inspection individual. we are required under our water plan, in case for some reason our agency is not able to complete water inspections of our establishments, we have to have a backup. Previously, we used Otter Tail County's Public Health Agency, and they are now a 4-county public health agent or CHB. And so they discontinued doing this. So we needed either an organization or a registered sanitarian. So Mark Anderson, who is on our public health advisory, is a registered sanitarian and is willing to provide backup water inspections in the event that our agency is not able to accomplish it. As I said, we've never had to use it, but it's required to have a backup, even though we do have 2 people. What I'm asking today is if the county board would please approve the contract between our agency and Mark Anderson for water inspections. We would pay him at a rate of $50 plus expenses should we ask him to go out and collect water samples.
Commissioners, could I get a motion and a second for discussions?
Commissioner Wilson will make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Blaine,
Yep.
second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussions.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
I know Mr. Anderson, and I wonder if Brad is at liberty to give us a little bit of a background on Mark. I know that he would be very capable of doing this job, but if I'm not sure if it's okay or not, but if Brad can give us a little background on Mark.
Brad, go ahead.
What I know about Mark is that he is a former Morrison County employee. He was at Land Services. He did environmental health. He is now employed by Camp Ripley, and I believe he's in a management role at Camp Ripley with the DNR. Some type of environmental sciences at Camp Ripley. And again, as I said, he has been on our public health advisory as the registered sanitarian and does a great job. He's helped us on a couple of other issues. And as you know, he's also willing to be on our appeals board if we have any establishments appeal a fine or a suspension or some action we take against them. So we appreciate having Mark available to us and as a part of our public health advisory.
That's perfect. Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Ms. Gruber?
Just to clarify, there was a position change, maybe since Brad was aware, but he's the area hydrologist with the DNR. He's not at camp.
Oh, thank you. Nope, I did not know that.
And we've had worked with Mark before on Chaminade issues, and like Brad said, he's on our public health board. Any other discussions? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Mike said aye. Mike, can you unmute yourself, please?
I'm sorry, aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
And Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Brad, on that.
Next on my agenda, I do have a couple of adjustments to what I'm going to provide in terms of food, beverage, and lodging establishments. The first RBA that we have is approving these 2021 annual establishment licenses contingent upon payment in full of taxes and fees. Minus, I would like to remove Country Inn and Suites. I'm actually going to present an RBA specifically on Country Inn and Suites. But these are establishments that we have been working with. They've communicated with us. We've talked to them about where they're at with their fees and licenses. So we don't want to not have them available January 1st. And it's similar to what we do every year. There are always a few that postpone paying their taxes or their fees. And so what I'm asking for is to approve these contingent upon full fees and taxes paid minus Country Inn and Suites.
Very good. Gentlemen, you understand that motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion as Brad outlined.
I'll second
Motion
for
made,
more
Commissioner-
discussion, Randy.
Second by Commissioner Winter for further discussion. Discussions? Commissioner Winter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Brad, I looked at these the other day. I looked at them yesterday and today. Why is there such a discrepancy as far as licensing fees? I mean, even for Arby's and a Burger King, they're sitting almost right next to each other, but yet there's over $100 difference. You got some of these establishments like Sev's and Buckman. Could you give me a little bit background on those? And then I'm gonna ask the same question when we get down to the 2021 approval. We got like probably 20 or 30. So if you could give me some explanation, please.
So it's going to depend upon whether they're all based on our fees that are established by the county board every January. It is based on the amount of food they sell. And so that is why there is differences in how much individuals pay for their food licenses, whether it be small, I don't have them all in front of me, small, minimal, large. And Sevs, I did ask about Sevs and now I forgot where I put that email because, and I want to say it was taxes, but I can't say for certain. I can get that information. Like I can't remember what Sevs has to pay, but I was ready for that question too, Commissioner Winter. And now I can't find the email. I forgot to pull it up. I apologize.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Brad, I mean, I know you probably have the $5,116 in Sevs. That's what it shows as license fees. But so he may be behind on his real estate taxes or
Correct.
Is that possibility? So that's why that's higher?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Gruber?
I don't know, Brad, does it make sense that real estate taxes would be reflected in this amount here? That doesn't add up to me. I guess maybe we can find
Yeah,
an
well,
answer.
I will definitely find an answer and get it out to the commissioners.
And what we could do, Mr. Chair, if you're okay to answer Randy's question, maybe we can just postpone the vote on this till it comes back and Brad could go find that, because I don't know that that's the answer, Randy, and I hate to leave you hanging without that answered before we vote on that. Does that seem okay?
Thank you, Deb. I
Okay.
appreciate that. Yep.
All right. We will come back to this and at the later part of our meeting. Is that all right, gentlemen?
Yes, I'd like that answer too.
Yep, I can go find out and bring it back.
Very good. Should we do the abstract of establishment licenses now too? Would you like to do that now, Brad? Or do you want to do that later too?
Those are based on the fees that we established by the commissioners. But before we do that, Mr. Chair, I do have an RBA that I need to add. And I'm not sure if Deb, if you have it or if you want me to share it.
If you could share it, that would be great. I don't have an electronic version of it right in front of me, I don't think.
All right, so there we go.
Just so you know, Deb, we lost the screen.
Thank you for telling me. Brad took over sharing, I believe.
Oh.
Hopefully I grabbed the right one.
There you go.
See Country Inn and Suites.
Okay.
Is that what you're seeing? It looks like it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
We see it.
So I'm asking the county commissioners to approve this annual established license contingent upon payment in full for lodging and food. They did drop off a check yesterday, but it did not include the cost for food or the total cost for the number of rooms they have. So this would be contingent upon full payment. They are able to stay open and continue to provide lodging January 1st, which is good. But we still need to clarify the food and full payment for lodging.
Very good. Could I get a motion and a second for further discussion?
So I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
Motion made by Commissioner Blaine, second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion. Brad, on the other licenses, we had contingent upon payment of full 2020 real estate taxes. Should that be should that be put on here?
Their real estate taxes are paid in full.
Okay,
So this one does not have a similar contingency as
Very
some of the
good.
others on that previous list.
very good. Thank you, Brad. All right, gentlemen, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, or it'll be a roll call vote. Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire, aye. Commissioner Wincher,
All right,
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, I think I stopped sharing, Deb.
Yep, and I'm gonna try to get back in there with this and hopefully that works. How are we doing? Is it my screen again?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so now we are to the full list of establishment license for 2021 food, pools, and lodging. All of these fees are based on our fee schedule that is established by the county board on January 1st. And actually, this is based on our January or 2021 fees as well. So we do send these out based on our 2021 fee schedule. So we wait until the commissioners have at least contingently approved those. So I just want to point out that I was trying to remember which establishments, but I think we are -4 establishments. We know it's been a very difficult year for bars, restaurants, hotels. And so we have lost 4 establishments from the 2020 to the 2021 licenses that I can recall, that I remember. So, and Michelle and Carmen have done a great job talking to these establishments. And as I said, it's been a very difficult year for them. Almost all are abiding by the governor's executive orders and doing business as required under these difficult circumstances. So I would move all of these forward for approval.
What's the wish of the board?
Commissioner Wilson will make a motion on that.
Motion by Commissioner Wilson,
second by Commissioner Wincher for more discussion.
second by Commissioner Wincher. Discussion, Commissioner Wincher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, on these here, again, I'm looking at all of them. They kind of are pretty the same, but are these also based on sales? Again, I can't remember how we look at this because again, some of these, they sell just liquor maybe. I don't know, maybe if you could help me on that one too.
Yes, so these are actually just food, pools, and lodging licenses. We do liquor establishments in July. We are responsible for all the food establishments in Morrison County, whether they are in town or whether they are in the country. Liquor establishments are a little different. They are regulated by both us and the city, but they only pay us a liquor fee, a liquor license fee. So this is just for food, beverage, and lodging, does not include alcohol. And it is not based on sales. It is based on a fee schedule that I don't have in front of me right now, that we approve every year with the county board. Based on food sales, kitchen size, amount of food prep. Those that just have frozen pizzas do not pay as much as those that make homemade pizza, those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire, aye. Commissioner Wincher,
All right,
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That is all I have for approval. I will go bring back what the reason for SEV's contingent costs are and have that to you shortly.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda, corrections. Ms. Kern, good morning.
Good morning. I'm here today to present the highlights of our comprehensive plan and to seek approval to submit that to the Department of Corrections. It is a requirement every 2 years that I complete a full comprehensive plan. And then on the odd year, I submit a short plan. The comprehensive plan, because of the pandemic, was emailed out to our advisory board rather than attempting to hold an in-person meeting or trying to do it over Zoom with a larger group. And there was no one who was opposed to me moving it forward to the county board for approval. So I can run through these highlights if you would like, and then ask for questions at that point.
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. So obviously 2020 brought challenges for everyone. In corrections, it was interesting because we suddenly had to realize, how do we deal with our clients, keep them safe, keep our staff safe, and how do we help them deal with their mental health issues? My staff was amazing. The majority of them were already able to work remote, so that wasn't hard. That was an easy piece for us. But how did we get them services? How did we have things available to them to reach out for mental health issues, reach out for chemical dependency issues? So what happened is we ended up teaming up our higher risk agents, the ones who are dealing with the people out of prison, sex offenders, high risk probation cases that tended to be more violent, and then domestic abuse cases. We teamed up people so that they would do home visits while standing in the yard, fully masked. The person would come out and they would talk to them. They also made extra phone contacts. And when they did go out, they would hand out a list that my staff came up with of online resources, 1-800 numbers that could be called, websites for mental health issues, to try and de-escalate those situations where someone who maybe has impulse control issues is suddenly now home 24/7. I know it's a lot for anyone to deal with, even people who have skills. So that was one of the things that they did. They talked to their clients about, if you are starting to feel like you're going to lose your temper, you need to step outside, reach out to me, reach out to this website, count to 10, take a moment before acting. My staff also assisted with, I think, every one of the food delivery programs that happened through the county. I at least had a couple of staff who helped, and then a couple who filled in so other ones could go. Let's see, we'll go through the crime rate and change slide. This is just people who are on probation. This information is pulled from the statewide supervision system. It doesn't track anyone who's not yet been sentenced, anyone who's on diversion, or anyone who's out of prison. So this is simply probation cases. And you can see, I tried to break it down so you could see that there has been some change. We have a few less cases on probation, but part of that is we're using a lot more diversion now in our juvenile areas, where some of our drug court clients are pretrial rather than sentenced. On the next slide, adult probation by offense level. Again, this is just probation cases. But if you look at 2019, you can see that our felonies are up from 2011, but down slightly from 2015, which is actually nice. On the juvenile offenses, there's not a lot of change there. If you look back to 2011 on the juvenile cases, we had a lot more felonies. And one of the things that has happened that I'm very happy about is the world of corrections has figured out that we don't have to have a felony conviction on juveniles to be able to make a difference in their lives. We do not have to saddle a 13-year-old with a felony. We can still make an impact with a lesser included charge or a stay of adjudication and work with them and not have them deal with a felony for the next 70, 80 years. So on the next slide after this one that you're seeing now is something that I have seen coming, and I'm quite shocked about it. Our DWI and drug offense numbers are identical. And if you would have said to me 5 to 10 years ago that this was going to happen, I would have told you that you were crazy, because DWI is typically the number one offense, all different levels, but the number one offense that's committed in counties. Currently in Morrison County, at the time of this snapshot, they were exactly identical. And one of those reasons I believe is ride sharing, taxis, just general education about drinking and driving, people understanding that they're more likely to get caught. And then, of course, we have seen a rise in drug offenses in our county in the last few years, and statewide as well, with the rise of heroin and the resurgence of methamphetamine. So this slide talks about how, what our goals are. What are we doing moving forward? Well, honestly, COVID put the brakes on a lot of our goals. One of my main goals last year was to increase our thinking for a change groups and to monitor them and make sure that we're delivering that with fidelity. We haven't been able to have in-person groups, and so that's really been kind of put on hold. In January, I have one more staff, our drug court agent, who's getting trained in that group as well. So I'll have 2 staff to deliver. Actually, I'll have 3 staff to deliver that program, 2 of which it will be their primary responsibility. And it'll be nice because it'll be a male and a female, so that it gets a little awkward if you have 1 female or 2 females in a group and the rest are all males, or the other way around. So having 2 staff who can go in and facilitate the group is nice, but also having 2 staff of different genders is nice. In 2021, we'll begin to use tools on devices. This is something we've been using for a long time, the carry guides, but the tools on devices is actually something that is brilliant. We can, if we have a client who is struggling, say that Mr. Vold is my client and he's struggling with anger issues and he just is stressed out about money and he doesn't know what to do. We now have the ability to go into this program that's produced by the Carry Group and look and say, okay, here's a couple of things that'll help him break down what's going on, how he can kind of make better choices or things he can focus on, budgeting, anger control, looking at triggers, things that make him upset. And we can send those right to their phones, kind of like homework. And then they fill it out and send it back to us. And then at the next meeting, we can talk about it. We don't have to wait for them to bring it in. We don't have to wait for them to say, oops, I forgot it at home. My dog ate my homework, whatever. They will send it to us via their phone. We'll have it, make sure that it's completed enough. And we can sit and talk about, okay, I see that you did this, but what about the fact that, I don't know, that you're going and buying coffee at a takeout place 3 times a day versus making it at home? You could save some money, different things like that. That is one of the items that we were able to arrange purchase through some of the CARES money to help us with post-pandemic. And I love it. I'm very excited about this. The staff is excited. Finally, I do just want to say again that I am extremely proud of my staff for how they were able to hit the ground running. They knew where their clients lived. They knew that they needed to be there and they needed to help them. They knew they needed to increase their contacts and that we wanted to work in conjunction with the county, with the sheriff's department to keep not only residents safe, but also keep ourselves safe and help our offenders not act out and not get in more trouble. With that, I am requesting approval to submit the 2021 comprehensive plan to the Department of Corrections, but I would pause for any questions.
Thank you, Nicole. Let's get a motion and a second for further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we go forward with, let Nicole go forward with submitting this to the Department of Corrections.
Motion made by Commissioner Blaine, second by
Commissioner Winchell.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Wincher. Discussion. Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nicole, I have to say kudos to you and your staff this past year through this pandemic and the challenges it brings to different departments in the county. You've kind of quietly, and not kind of, you've quietly been able to go forward and continue to provide the services to your clientele out there in a very effective manner, without, kind of without a peep. You guys have you've done an awesome job, and we don't see you very often, which tells me there's a lot of good things happening over there. But I have one question that I want to ask you that wasn't in your slides, and when we looked at how tracking the numbers of clients on the different different charges, are we seeing a drop in the recidivism rate in the county?
Boy, you do ask the tough questions. Recidivism is actually measured in regions in the state of Minnesota. It's broke down in regions versus by each county. Okay. So we are actually together with Crow Wing, Wadena, Cass, and one more county. And we have seen a reduction to some extent. The one thing specific to our county that I can address is the recidivism in regards to drug court. And I can tell you that our drug court offenders have a very low recidivism rate. I've kind of shocked, I think, the state at how well how low our recidivism numbers are. I've been trying to figure out how to dedicate time to really track recidivism specific to our county. And I'm actually working now with someone with the Department of Corrections to see if they can help me break only Morrison out of that large group. And if I can manage to do that, I will absolutely bring that to the board, because I would like to share that information. I do believe that the more programming that we can provide, such as Thinking for a Change, to high-risk offenders, that is one of the largest items that does assist in lowering recidivism, is cognitive behavioral programming. And so the more that we can do that with our higher risk clients, the more impact we will have.
Well, I think you've done a fantastic job, Nicole, and your staff there in corrections, and I'm very supportive of moving forward with this plan to the Department of Corrections.
Thank you, Commissioner Blaine. Mr. Vold, Brad? You're muted, Brad.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm ready with my previous RBA whenever you're ready.
All right, I seen your hand up. I thought you had a comment. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, could you please, recidivism? What is that?
Absolutely. Recidivism is when someone is convicted of an offense and they go through probation and they're off of that offense and they receive a new charge. So that's recidivate. So and typically it's measured from misdemeanor, or I'm sorry, gross misdemeanor and felony is how the state does it. But also you can ask to break it down by misdemeanor, which I think is important because there are targeted misdemeanors as well, and a lot of those can be person offenses. So any new offense after they are off of supervision would be recidivating, other than a traffic offense.
Okay, I thank you. I just didn't know what you were talking about.
Good question, Mike. Any other discussion for Nicole? I would too like to thank you, Nicole, and your staff for all the hard work you did this year. It couldn't have been easy, and you did it without us, like Commissioner Blaine said, without us even knowing about it. So we appreciate it. Any other discussion? This will be a roll call. Lemire, aye. Commissioner Winter,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Happy New Year.
Next on the agenda, we'll go to Brad. Mr. Wold.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, SEVs is only taxes. That's what's left to be paid for SEVs. They have paid their food license. We are just waiting on their taxes.
Very good. Any other follow-up question, Commissioner Winter?
That explains the high amount. So again, in your approval, it does say real estate taxes. So I'm just looking at the rest of them are all caught up. Maybe going back to Country Inn and Suites, theirs is a little off kilter. Possibly there might be taxes in there too, but that explains the high amount.
And we are passing this one with the exception of Country Inn and Suites. We did that on that other RBA. So
Correct.
This one here is going to be all of them with the exception of Country Inn and Suites. We already did them separately. So we have a motion and a second, or let's start over. Let's get a motion and a second to approve this RBA with the questions that have been answered, unless Deb remembers who did the motion in the second.
Yes, Mr. Jelinski did the motion and Mr. Winter seconded.
Very good. Discussion? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, would it be okay to give a brief update on COVID? I forgot to do that prior with my last report.
That would be fine, Brad. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
On our situation update page today, we are going to show 2,913 positives. We have a case rate of 88 over the past 14 days, which means our actual rate is 26.6. It has gone down significantly.
Wow.
We were at a high of around 200 in November. So continue to see some pleasing numbers in terms of those who are in the quarantine phase of COVID. And our number of kids have actually really significantly dropped. We are at 13 kids today who are in quarantine. We were at a high of about 60, probably early December. And so schools have certainly liked to see that. As we know, the schools are going to start to go back to in-person based on some governor's orders and MDE requirements. So we are still continuing to meet with them every week, except for this week we did not because of the Christmas break and give them all a break. So the numbers continue to trend down, which is good. Feel like we have a little cushion for Christmas and New Year's if we see a little bit of a spike. I would assume we're not going to have the spike we had in November. So that's pretty good. Local public health did receive some vaccines, and we have set up a vaccine clinic for next Wednesday for emergency responders and law enforcement. So we are gonna work on assisting getting those individuals vaccinated. And again, another good positive step forward. know that the hospital vaccinated some last week and into this week. Our long-term care facilities have started to vaccinate this week. So that phase 1A is progressing, and we're moving on to phase 1B with some of the local public health vaccines. So much more positive today than a couple weeks ago, and we're hoping to continue to trend in that direction. So, so that's what I have for a COVID update, if anybody has any questions.
Commissioner Blaine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, for in help in answering that ever-growing question from the public as to when a vaccine will be available to the general public. How do we best answer that?
You know, it's a good question. It's one that doesn't have a specific answer at this point. We have not gotten guidance from Minnesota Department of Health on how all of phase 1 is going. So I hate to give a target, but we know our pharmacies are getting calls. We know our clinics and doctors are getting calls, and we're getting calls asking about the general public. Phase 1 again is emergency responders, long-term care, healthcare, the vulnerable, those populations. So we're hoping shortly that they will start to give some better direction about more of the general public, and even those who are older than average, I'll go that route, who live in their own homes that may have some underlying health conditions. But at this point, don't have a solid answer as to when we might have a good date of starting those populations.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you, Brad, for that information. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Brad.
Next on the agenda, motor vehicles. Chelsea, are you on?
Happy last day of the year. Yes,
There
I
you
am.
are.
Hey.
Nice.
All right.
morning.
Good morning. This morning, I have in front of you a request for approval to increase petty cash in the Department of Motor Vehicle, an increase of $200. This question came about for Minnesota statute 375.45 from the state auditors. It just states that the board has approval to, or should grant approval on petty cash. However, Morrison County policy states that the auditor treasurer can do so with the request. So the state auditors just had mentioned that it's not necessary to bring it forward to board. However, it may be just a clean slate to get this increase approved. And I'm requesting this approval because we do have additional stations in the Department of Motor Vehicle where staff now have separate tills. So in order to make change, the request is coming before you.
Very good. Commissioners, can I get a motion in a second?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you on that, Chelsea. Next.
Next, I have a request for a change of authorized signers for the Morrison County Business Now account at Pine Country Bank for the effective date of January 5th, 2021. Current signers are myself, Debbie Smanyetz, and Board Chairman Michael Lemire, and changes would result in final signers to be myself, Debbie Smanyetz, and Michael Wilson.
Commissioners, can I get a motion in a second for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Motion by
Randy.
Commissioner, second by Commissioner Winter. Discussion? This will be a roll call. Oh, I forgot where I was at. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter,
Just for one comment, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
who is Deborah, however you pronounce her name?
2 minutes.
Debbie in the auditor treasurer's office. Our deputy here.
Okay, all right, I had a mind melt there. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Motion carried. Ms. Gruber?
Just, I don't think you guys, just check the spelling of the name, Chelsea, and make sure it's EAL. That's how Michael is usually.
Oh, sure.
Just to, in the document, I don't want to have it be wrong and cause a problem later.
Yep. I will double check. Thank you.
Very good. Motion carried. Next, approval of the warrants. Chelsea?
Last but not least, requesting to pay year-end bills.
Gentlemen, can I get a motion and a second to pay the bills? All the bills?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pay all the bills.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski. Second by,
Second.
thank you, Mike. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter.
All right,
And Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Have a happy new
Mike?
year.
Chelsea?
Thank you. Just wait,
Yes.
Chelsea. Commissioner Wilson, do you have a question?
Chelsea, my name does have, it is AEL. I'm
Okay.
Michael. That's what my driver's license has got, so let's leave it like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, Mike. Next on the agenda, Public Works Report, Mr. Bukowski.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, everyone.
Good morning.
Couple of action items for your consideration today. Mr. Chairman, we are requesting that the board would authorize 2021 solid waste hauler licenses. Those companies listed in the RBA. They have all met the requirements of the solid waste ordinance. We have those that own property within Morrison County. We've validated that they are current on their property taxes. And so I'd like to take these separately. We'd request that the board would authorize us to issue the licenses for solid waste haulers as listed.
Can we get a motion and a second to approve the solid waste hauler licenses?
so
moved,
moved,
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winter.
We got Commissioner
Second.
Winter, motion, Commissioner Blaine, second. Discussion. Hearing none. Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter,
All right,
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next consideration are the recyclable haulers. This is a listing of those haulers which we had licensed in 2020. See, there are a couple that have, there are no fees that we charge for recyclable haulers. That is because under state law, we can't issue requirements that would not encourage recycling. And so our ordinance was set up originally for licensure so that we could get reporting and we can get the information we need that we have to submit when we're providing information to the state on what our recycling rate is for SCORE funding. So there are a couple here that haven't provided the vehicle inspections, but we would request that the board would authorize the department to issue licenses once they have completed all their documentation so that we would be able to continue to promote recycling by these companies within our county.
Gentlemen, can I get a motion and a second to approve the recyclable material hauler licenses?
Commissioner Wilson will make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Wilson,
I'll
second
second
by
it.
Commissioner Jelinski. Discussions. Hearing none. Commissioner Wilson. said it. You lipped aye.
I'm sorry, aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Wincher,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Uh, Commissioner Blaine votes aye. I also have a question when we complete.
Commissioner Blaine, aye. Motion carried. Commissioner Blaine.
So, I don't know, this just hit me here, but, so on recyclable materials, Steve, we have all but one of the list of recycling haulers is from out of the county, or excuse me, I see there's two of them within the county, but, so compared to other waste that's generated within Morrison County, which we want to stay in the county and go to the landfill, that doesn't apply, that same thought doesn't apply then to recyclables, that anything being recycled is allowed to leave the county? Is that correct? Or am I looking at this wrong?
No, that's correct, Commissioner Blaine. And essentially it becomes a question of volume to create facilities that are able to profitably be able to recycle materials and create a product. Morrison County doesn't generate, enough of each of those types of recyclables to be able to do that. Even EEI essentially is an intermediate processor. They don't create a product, and their license here, they take it to some other facility that may create a product, which is really what that recycling effort is after.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Blaine.
So, Steve, these material hauler licenses would not include recycling that's going on within the city of Little Falls. Is that correct?
The contracts that the city of Little Falls has for collection of their recyclables, they're licensed under the solid waste hauler. If you're licensed as a solid waste hauler, you can haul recyclables. So you take in the city of Little Falls, their hauler is city sanitary, and they're a licensed solid waste hauler. They can haul solid waste, and they can hire or haul recyclables. It combines them.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, then our last request is a motion for the department to be able to issue solid waste management facility licenses to the companies or the facilities that are listed. We have the recycling facilities of EEI and Burgess aluminum can recycling in Little Falls area. We have the demolition landfill at Camp Ripley. That facility continues to be licensed and operate. Camp Ripley had been licensing 2 petrosoil treatment sites. They are going to just go to 1 because they were not utilizing both sites for treatment. And so at this point in time, they'll go back to 1. If they need the other one, they'll have to relicense that at that time. And also the transfer station out at Camp Ripley. We've inspected these, the department's inspected these. They're in compliance with the solid waste ordinance. And so we are requesting that the board would authorize issuance of these licenses to these facilities.
Commissioners, can I get a motion and a second to support the solid waste management facility licenses?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Blaine.
Second by Commissioner Wilson.
Second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussions? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Lemire, aye. Commissioner Wincher,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, then the next RBA is an update in 2000. or last year, January of 2020, we had requested authorization from the board to submit a project for federal transportation funds, which was our County Road 256, 160th Avenue, basically Evergreen Road from Midwest Machinery south to Iris Road, which is a landfill road. We were not funded in that competitive process last year. And so we are requesting that the board would authorize us to resubmit that application this year, which is for the 2025 Surface Transportation Improvement Program. So we have everything that we had submitted last year, but we were requesting that the board would update the resolution so that we can resubmit this to Region 5 and compete for those funds.
Thank you, Steve. What is the wish of the board?
I'll make a
Move to
motion.
approve.
Motion made Commissioner Winter, second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Winter,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. That's all I have. So I'm wishing you a very happy new year and catch up with you next year.
Thank you so much, Steve. You too.
Same
you.
to you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Next on the agenda, fund transfers for CARE Act. Mr. Messerschmidt.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have an action motion item here to transfer CARES Act dollars that were incurred in the Social Services, Road and Bridge and Solid Waste Fund. As you know, we received over $4 million that came into the general fund. We need to move it from the general fund into this to cover their costs related to their expenses that they incurred.
What's the wish of the board?
Commissioner
So moved,
Wilson will
Mr.
make a
Chair.
motion.
Motion made Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire, aye. Commissioner Winter,
Aye.
motion carried.
All right, thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Steve.
Nope. I have one more
Oh,
motion
all right.
item. The next one I have is to, as attached, I have a listing of assigned, restricted, and committed fund balance. The balances are as of 2019. What I'm asking for is to approve the fund balances for the end of 2020. I will bring, as I have those numbers updated, I will bring them to you in my quarterly report and to discuss those further.
So moved.
Motion
Randy.
by Commissioner Winter,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussions? Hearing none?
I do have,
Roll call? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I should have raised my hands. One thing I just wanted to make a mention, there was no transfer yet. I'll do that as soon as it's final on the annex. There's still a contractor out there and there's still some other costs yet. So when that becomes final and we have the final number, I'll bring that transfer in to, just wanted to give you an update on that as.
Okay. Are you talking about the annex, the putting the money into the building fund? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about. It because
All
I can't move it yet because I'm not sure what the final costs are. So I'm not going to bring it in until I know what those final costs are. I just want to give you an update on that.
Very good. That makes sense. Thank you. Any other discussion, gentlemen? Deb? Hearing none, this will be roll call. Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Commissioner Winter,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
motion carried.
That's all I have. Thanks and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Steve. Happy New Year to you too.
All right, thanks.
Next up, administration. Deb, Ms. Gruber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The item that I have was discussed at a previous planning meeting regarding the lighting, the LED lighting for Holden Electric for the total of $28,875. What occurred was when we did early on in the project a change order for the building remodel, the sheriff's office went from minimal work that was done, and if you recall, we went into the change order that dove into a more mechanical, more of a robust remodel in that area due to that initial bid being lower than what the bond amount was, and so we decided to tackle some of those ongoing mechanical issues. And with that, a portion of the work was taken off of the retrofitting for the lights. So it was decided early on that we would retrofit the existing non-remodeled area for the LED lighting, bring them up to date. And so when that portion was taken out, not only did the sheriff's office come out, but inadvertently the court area came out of that. And so when Holden bid that, they bid what we thought was including the courts, but what we later learned didn't include the courts. And so that is where this discrepancy came in. And it was later when the auditing came in and we looked at what they all did for work and what was bid for work. It was two different things. And so this work has been complete. It wasn't paid for in the initial go round, and now it's needing to be paid for. And it also explains why that bid initially was less than what we anticipated it being, because there was a portion of that work that wasn't included. And John is available if we have questions for him. I can certainly get him on the line, but that's the explanation.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Gruber.
Sure.
Gentlemen, can I get a motion and a second for further discussion? Commissioners?
Nobody's touching it.
Well, can I make a motion?
I'll make the motion for more discussion.
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner Blaine. Motion made by Commissioner Wincher, second by Commissioner Blaine. Discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Well, my question would be, is that when I see extended price, is that what our estimate was? Was it close? Was it over, under? I guess that's a question that I'd like to have answered.
Yep, the per unit price certainly is the same as we paid in any per unit price for the rest of the project. It was that this portion of the work was not bid, and we thought it was bid because the initial area that was determined to be bid, that court area was removed when we removed the sheriff's office inadvertently. But the work is done, and the per unit price for this is not more than the per unit price in any other portion of the project. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Well, again, and I knew that, Deb. I just wanted to have you explain why it wasn't bid and wasn't bid. But
Yep.
I knew that was coming. But I just, for the public and everybody else to renew
Yep.
what's going on here. So thank you.
Yeah, it really was a, it was one of those where after we sat down and looked at it, because, it's a good question. Why, how did we all miss both the vendor, contractor and the county miss that big of a portion? But after we kind of laid it out and went through it, it was one of those things that we are paying for the work that was done, whether it would have been in the initial bid or not and we're not paying more than what it would have been when it would have been bid. We just caught it after the work was done, which isn't typical, but given a project this size, unfortunately can happen. But the work intended to be done, we went into the project knowing that needed to occur, and it did.
Thank you, Ms. Gruber. Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, I think it's extremely important that we make it very clear that today is not the first day that we've talked about this. We talked about this at a planning meeting, I believe, at length. And in all honesty, I have to agree with Ms. Gruber when she says, yep, it was missed. Who missed it? How come it was missed? Why it was missed? It was missed. It was done. It's over with. And as I said, today is not the first day that we talked about this at all. And it's just one of those items that we need to get taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I guess and I brought this up like Commissioner Jelinski over the planning sessions we've had. And again, this is a quite the amount. Deb, to you, did they kind of give us a better price just because it was missed? And I always go back, well, someone, and I'm not blaming the county at all, because Deb, you're not an engineer. John's not an engineer, but someone missed this here. And I just think that someone else other than the county should have to pay for this.
My understanding is that the per unit fixture price is appropriate and well within the parameters of what they should charge. They did the work, and we intended them to do the work, and we intended to pay for the work to be done. And so there isn't an extra cost. It would have been included in that original proposal that was there initially. So it's not more of a cost than we intended with the project. It's just coming after the fact, which is weird. I'll give you that. That's not the way it should have gone had everything been exactly as was the case, and they would have had the right document to bid off of. So, you know, it kind of, the timing of this, I think everybody plays a part in it, but we're not paying more per unit price than would have been in the initial proposal had that been the timing of it.
Any follow-up, Commissioner Winter? Are you good with that?
I think I'm good. I keep on
Right.
pressing the wrong buttons. Thank you.
And I do believe John said he got him to lower the price per unit, and that $175 also includes the labor to installing them, which, you know, if you ever bought an LED fixture, that's a very reasonable price for 2x4 LED fixture installed, $175. And if this is something that we plan on doing down the road, I think it's the right thing to do, even though that a mistake did happen. What we got to realize is that we did get the 165 fixtures, and we did get them installed, and you know, we won't be saving much on electricity because they just don't save you that much, but we will be saving money on electricity. We will be getting them energy saving refunds from the electric company off of these, and they're done. This is something we wanted to do, and we got it done with the bonding proceeds that we had left over. Correct, Ms. Gruber?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. It was intended to be included within the project from the outset.
Very good. Commissioner Wilson.
I agree with what you got to say, Mike. The only question probably is, were all the people that bid on this, none of them had this in their plan? You know what I mean? So in other words, let's say the person that was second, he had it in his plan. Go ahead, you know what I'm asking.
Yep, this was a change order that was done after the initial bid was awarded. And so any of the retrofitting we did with the existing or with the already contracted and awarded electrical company.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other discussion? This will be a roll call. Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, and all in all, thank you for that. I apologize for that timing of that, but in a project this size, oof, I tell you, there's a lot going on. The next RBI I have is to consider modifying current policy and voluntarily extending the existing FFCRA parameters to Morrison County staff. So I'm going to step back a bit. The Families First Act involved the requirement from the federal government to extend time to employees in relation to COVID. So the act required employers to extend 80 hours of, and I'm going to kind of dub it COVID leave. It's kind of a layman's terms for it. COVID leave to staff and also extended FMLA. And so we've been applying that as identified in law. That is time that, if utilized, we use to calculate in our CARES reimbursement or our CARES accounting for staff time, and how we've applied kind of that benefit, so to speak, to employees throughout 2020 as required by law. We've been waiting patiently on what the federal government was going to do when it comes to this and a number of other COVID-related issues. The expectation I had, I'll be honest with you, is that they were going to require this to be extended because COVID clearly doesn't end today, right? It's going to exist tomorrow too. But what occurred from the federal government was slightly different, and this was just passed and solidified, what was it, early this week, late last week, early this week by the time the president signed it, is that they're not requiring the extension of this. However, they are extending to private employers the tax credit that comes with it until March 31st. And so exactly why the federal government does what they do or what the different negotiation parameters are, I can't speak to that. And I think the total FFCRA bill that was just passed is hundreds of pages long, and it's not current, completely vetted. But what it has done is we as an HR group, we're really kind of talking about what to do with staff. Clearly, COVID's going to impact staff tomorrow, just like it does today. Clearly, it's going to impact staff in the next number of months, as it does today, and it has this past year. And so what we're proposing after we went through and kind of weighed the pros and cons of this is to voluntarily extend what it is that FFCRA initially did for staff. We had, we have about 105, the last time I looked, about 105 employees that have used some portion of COVID leave time because COVID has impacted them. So that tells us quite a bit of our staff. A third of our staff have been impacted by COVID in terms of its uprooting or impacting their lives and work balance. We've had about 16, I think the last time I looked, staff utilize all of those 80 hours. And there's about 5 or 6 that are using extended FMLA leave, which is covering like childcare or different care issues if they need to be away from the office. So that tells us that, and as you know, COVID impacts all people regardless of where they work. And so the ability to be able to be flexible and extend those parameters moving into the next year, limited, moving into the next year, taking it step by step, I think is a reasonable approach for staff. I think it's a reasonable approach for the organization. And it kind of falls in line with what the federal government did for or implied for private employers, even though we aren't a tax-paying entity and don't receive that tax credit. When proposing this, I did survey the department head leadership group and said, here's what we're coming across, here's what we're considering, and the reasons being is that we know you as departments are dealing with staff and needing to be able to recognize the fact that COVID's impacting their work-life balance. And so the feedback that I did get from that was that they did concur that this was a reasonable approach to take. We're not expanding the benefits at all. We're not increasing anything. We're just kind of extending that deadline, recognizing COVID isn't over yet, and applying the same parameters as identified in the law. So that's what this resolution would do. And that's what the proposed action would be at this time, is just to extend that. If there is anything that comes from the federal government that requires us to behave differently, clearly that would supersede it. If there's anything that comes from the state government that requires us to behave differently as an employer, that would supersede this as well.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Gruber. Gentlemen, can I get a motion and a second for further discussion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski. Come on, Mike. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Blaine.
Deb, you said that roughly a third of the employee workforce have utilized some level of this assistance or of this, I won't say time off, but have been able to use this to adjust their schedule and or adjust the needs of their family members throughout this pandemic. So it'd be interesting, or at some point in time, maybe when we get to that end date of March 31st, to have if we could somehow have an accrued number of hours that we've had employees be off from countywide in whether it's through CRA or through FMLA, or or through some of the other programs here. Because then I'm looking at this, but we really haven't. Would it be fair to say that across the divisions of county government, we've been able to weather through this pandemic without kind of skipping a beat as far as providing those essential services to the residents of the county?
Great question. And as of the last report that I have,
You might even have numbers current, huh?
I do. Total number of hours are, I think I'm reading this right, Greg? I'm sorry. The value totals up to just a little over 100,000, 110, and the total number of hours would be 4,500-ish. When it comes to leave, that would have been taken and coded in our time tracking system to COVID related. So that would be the value. And again, that's included in that whole dollar amount that we had identified as our costs for CARES reimbursement dollars for. When you kind of mentioned total leave or total family leave or FMLA that would be taken and stuff, we could report that out. It's a law that we have to follow. We have no choice to be able to grant those hours to staff if requested. So I can certainly give you an idea on that. Part of what's incumbent upon us is to ensure that even though those laws exist and even though we have these requirements as they exist, whatever they may be, that we still are delivering those services. And so those types of redundancies are built in and need to be managed through in every area. It's very challenging at times when folks are on leaves or if they're gone. I mean, clearly, full staff is the best way to deliver services, but it is incumbent that we build that in and are able to do so and continue to do so. I think with COVID, with the number of hours that have been taken or used or where folks have had to be gone has been a challenge for everybody everywhere when it comes to delivering services, because there's interruptions and there's things that have happened, but we've weathered that storm and we continue to weather that storm pretty successfully, I think, because there hasn't been a gap or there hasn't been anything that I've heard in which we've had to really readjust.
So just so I have this correct, the 45, you said about 4,500 hours of leave time, but that does not include FMLA, or does include that?
Well, they can run in conjunction with each other. This is COVID time. This would what we would be considering COVID time under the FFCRA Act.
So that 4,500 would be that.
Yes.
Okay.
It would be those 105 employees and each have differing levels. Up to 80 hours is what would be potential, and 4,500 is what was utilized thus far.
And the fiscal number was 110,000?
112 and some change.
Okay.
Up to date on the last payroll period that we had.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner
Nice
Wilson.
that I can actually answer that question when you ask it. Sorry.
I get a little confused on this. So the COVID-19 money, the COVID money helped pay for this program before, correct?
Well, we were required regardless. And what the federal CARES dollars did was allow us to be able to utilize those hours and that cost to reimburse ourselves for that.
Okay, so going forward by approving this, where does that come from now? Or is it still the same hours? Like if it was 80 hours before and you used 60, you got 20 more left?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yep.
Please explain that to me.
Yep. as you recall, we had, what was the balance? And I don't know that Steve's still on, and I don't have that one in front of me, but roughly a couple of $1 million of that total CARES money that we, used or we retained because we had expenses or because we had staff put time into things that were essentially not budgeted, even though they're budgeted. So yes, you're right. So these dollars moving forward, if somebody would be like, say I was gone, say I ended up with COVID, I tested positive and I needed to be and couldn't work. If I couldn't work from home, if I was too ill and I needed to use 40 hours of COVID time instead of my PTO or instead of being here and working regular hours, we would code it to COVID time. Even though my time is already budgeted for 2080 hours. And essentially we're just paying staff differently, even though it's regular time to pay them. And those dollars that we were given from CARES and how we accounted for them would kind of be a way to offset that or to fill that gap because if I'm off for a COVID related reason, that's what and how we've been coding those hours to pay them for. And that's where that value comes in that Greg that I had mentioned, the 112. That value is the value of the hours that employees were out of the office, even though we would have paid them regular hours or budgeted that anyway. I don't know if that adds up and makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Winter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question or comment or concern, I don't know which one it is. We are extending this here till March 31st, even though the federal government said, you know what, we're discontinuing on to December 31st. And Deb, you did a good job explaining why we're doing it. But is there some ramifications that, let's say we do use COVID money or whatever for the CARES fund in January, February, and the federal government can come back and say, you know what? We discontinued this in the 31st. You knew that. Now we have to pay this money back. And I know kind of how that works, but is that a possibility?
Should I let Steve answer that, Ms. Gruber? I see
If you want to, I can go ahead, Steve. If you have something that you want to add to that, maybe you can say it differently than I am saying it.
Well, we have submitted our final report to the state, and I've only heard a few things back. That's not to say that the auditors couldn't find some things on how we contracted or how we spent our federal dollars. I don't anticipate that because I don't really see anything that they can always question it, but I think we have the explanations pretty well documented with the board and ourselves to answer those questions. But so I'm not anticipating that happening. But the thing is that what we're going to use to pay for this is that, as you well know, there was like $2 million that we used for this money, for this ESL and the PTO, and also for time dedicated towards COVID that's going to end up into fund balance of some kind. And so we'll be using some of that money in this. I think we estimated out if it's another 20,000, maybe, hard to say by the end of March. I don't even think it'll be that much, but something could happen I don't know about, but it's possible it could happen. So it's not going to cost us a lot to do it. And I think we have the fund balance from the money from previous COVID money to take care of it.
Yes, but my question still, I understand up to December 31st, because that's when this was in effect. But as of January 1st, we have no money in effect. And if we use 20,000 or 5,000, that's totally separate.
We do have a fund balance.
Would we have to pay that back?
No, we would not have to pay that back because we're using the fund balance that we have to pay any time going forward. We're just doing the time to track it, and we have the money to take care of it in fund balance.
The extra COVID dollars we received in 2020, we got in a fund balance that we can access for future needs, correct, Mr. Messerschmidt?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's where that fund dollars will come from if we need it for this Family First Act.
Correct.
So we could use them regardless if we would not extend this anyway. So we wouldn't, I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me.
It's in a fund balance, so we can use it on anything that we really want. We can use it to buy it on the levy if we choose, but it's there available for this if we choose to move forward with this. Ms. Gruber?
Kind of the issue becomes is time's already budgeted, and time was already budgeted in 2020 and time's budgeted in 2021. So these dollars cover already budgeted time. We just didn't know they were going to exist when 2020 started, so we didn't. So it's kind of almost extra because we already budgeted that time for every employee. So for me, the cost of me that's budgeted every year is 2080 hours. Some of those are paid via PTO. Some of those are paid via regular hours. Well, now we have some of them are paid via COVID time hours too. And so we have it accounted for in 2021 when it comes to COVID time and what we used to identify that. But all of that then sits there because we budgeted regular time and now we're getting extra COVID time for those that utilized it. I don't know if that helps either, but it's hard to know what words to use.
Commissioner Winter?
Mr. Chair, I believe Commissioner Blaine has his hand up.
Did that answer your question though, is what I was referring to? Or do you need further comment? Commissioner Blaine?
So I'm just trying to maybe help clear a little muddy water here, and just saying, you know, going back to the resolution, you know, what's happening here, fellas, is, you know, the FFCA CRA Act that was in place allowed the county employees the opportunity to use CARES dollars and to be gone in case of COVID, rather than burning up all their PTO and whatever, sick leave, you know, all of that. That was set to sunset today. All we're doing with this resolution is saying we recognize the fact that COVID still exists, and we're thinking it's still going to exist in a way that could affect our employees. So we're going to extend that benefit to March 31st of this coming year. We're not necessarily, we kind of strayed a little bit in the finance part of this and trying to recognize where the funds are. But Mr. Chair, you're correct. We have recognition of the, you know, 2 point so many million dollars that we have in fund balance that we can utilize, and it's within the realms of the law that we can utilize those funds to do that. And I'll look to Mr. Messerschmidt and Ms. Gruber to see if I summarized this correctly.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's well said.
Mr. Messerschmidt?
Yes, that was well said. It's basically extending a benefit to those that haven't utilized all the time.
Thank you on that, Commissioner Blaine. Any other discussions? You got something, Randy? No? Okay.
No,
Hearing
I'm
none.
good.
All right, Commissioner Wilson?
No, I'm fine.
Did we get a motion and a second on this, Deb?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Commissioner Winter?
All right.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
All right.
Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. And that will go out in a communication, Mr. Chair, to staff. I certainly will identify and provide and recognize the fact that that's being extended by you guys in terms of recognizing the employees and their struggles with COVID. And I think that's a good step. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I have a couple of other things that I wanted to quick, if you wouldn't mind me talking with you about. Number one is I'm going to have to reference an email. Let me get that up on another device. So your tablets are ready from IT. And the question that I need to know is whether or not, do you want us to issue those as a group like next Tuesday? Do you want to come in individually and meet with IT for that? What would you like?
Commissioners?
Alright.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
would probably like to meet with IT just so I can understand what it is and how to work it and so forth.
So just as an individual, should I set up individual meetings with you guys? Are you, or do you want to pick it up on Tuesday when you're here, or Monday? We could set some times. What would you like?
I could pick mine up on Tuesday when I'm there, if it's okay.
Sure.
Commissioner
Same here.
Zelinski?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be speaking for myself, but I'll certainly include anybody that wants to fall into this, is that it's brand new. This device that we're getting is brand new to me. And quite honestly, I can certainly work within a group, and I see personally, my opinion again, is that if IT can fix it so there's time, so they can do a mass training from turning it on to shutting it off and anything in between, whether it's after board or when it is, would probably save a lot of time. That's just my opinion. And thank you.
Commissioner Wilson, did you have something to
Yeah,
add?
yes, I would agree with Jeff totally. If we could do it as a group where they teach us how to do the stuff, I would be very satisfied with that.
Okay.
Commissioner Blaine?
I was just wondering, well, number one, I didn't know we were getting new tablets, so should we bring our old one in
Yes.
and turn it in?
Yes.
And my thought on this, I know we have some pomp and circumstance that'll take place before our Tuesday board meeting, unless I'm wrong on that. But I'm just curious if the rest of you guys, if IT was available, if we just came in, let's say at 8 o'clock and did a mass training, got the new, got our new goodies and all that. And then if we get done with that beforehand, we can, kick around a little bit before we do the pomp and circumstance. And then we got this thing wiped out.
Mr. Chair, I think great minds think alike. I was going to suggest that. Everybody okay coming in right at 8 on Monday, and I'll have IT have those ready for you down here. Does that work?
Sounds good to me. Greg, do we need
Alright.
to have Michelle come down so she knows how to run it?
What's that?
Do we need to have Michelle come in so she knows how to turn it on for you?
No, she knows all about this. That's how I'm online. Otherwise, I'd still be trying to string out the 2 soup cans with the string.
Mr. Chair, I said
you're awesome.
Monday, I meant Tuesday during the board
Okay.
meeting. I said Monday, sorry.
That was
And
my
Mr.
question.
And
That's
Mr.
awesome.
Chair, make sure, Deb, you send out something to remind us that we have to be there at 8 o'clock.
Sure, a calendar item, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
And then I think
funny.
like to Jeff's point, when it comes to the specific programs and things like that, so it's not just turning it on, connecting it to wireless, all of that kind of stuff, because it will be a laptop, not an iPad. And I think that functionality is going to be will serve you all much better. So I'm excited for that. Those and the devices that you have, I think, are the initial devices that we ordered for county commissioners shortly after I started in this role. So, that 2010-ish or more. So within programs, so Teams meeting, if you're doing that or something along those lines, we certainly can dive more into specific questions at a later date too, but wanted to let you know that exists. Okay, I'll set that up. The other thing I was actually going to ask, I have a note about a caller. There was a caller that had called in, and I was going to ask who that was for record purposes, but it seems as if they've dropped off, so we won't have that for attendance. The other thing that I'm going to do is quit sharing my screen and show you, if I can, some of the technology components that we have gotten set up in the boardroom, which are the ability and will be the ability to be able to have, when you come back in person, also have options for Teams meetings. So if you guys are utilizing, as we had identified some of the CARES dollars that we implemented some interactive conference rooms. And so this room now has that ability. And so I believe on the screen, you're seeing the full board dais, correct?
Yes.
That is now a camera view that, oops, go ahead,
I'm
Mike.
sorry, I'm not, I just see everybody's picture.
Yeah, that's same with me.
Yep.
So
I just see, Deb, I just see you and everyone else's picture. That's it.
you see me only?
Yeah,
And,
Well,
and
and
the
the
other
other
board
people.
members, but nothing else.
Okay. How about that now? Instead of me, do you see the
There
board
you
dais?
go.
All right.
Yeah.
So what we did was, now my computer needs to be plugged in at my station at the dais. And what that does is then it kind of extends, the ability for me to choose which camera to use and choose which microphone systems to use. So instead of all of us individually as a computer participating in the meeting, a remote meeting, we can participate as a boardroom. And so what that could do is envision all of you sitting here at your station or at your position at the dais, and then somebody needing to call in, say they're ill and can't come in, or say they have been quarantined or whatever it might be, then, or unable to come in just because of where they're located or whatnot, we can now participate as a full board and a full room with a call-in person. And so they'll see all of us instead of just one person on that individual camera, like you can see yourselves or how you saw me just a minute ago. And so the idea was to set this meeting up and this room up so our microphones can all work. You can sit at the dais as a normal functioning board, but yet participate as a whole room electronically. So
if one of us is sick, we still could attend the meeting while
Yes.
everybody else is up at their desks. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we can watch each other too then.
You can watch each other. You
Nice.
can see what's happening. The production component of this. So, Mark will come in and he sits there and he, during a meeting, is kind of changing camera views and all of that. So the recording of the meeting will capture all of that still and be able to interact. I spoke with Zach, who's on, and identified if he wants to participate electronically. We're still able to meet as a board here, and what he will see is that view of that dais or wherever Mark is moving the camera to, and the production component of it. And so those that aren't in the room, or there is an option to still participate within the meeting, but yet you would use the room technology like we need it to work. Where like now, if you came in and put up your computer, like Tabitha's sitting here, but she doesn't have the sound on, she can't use the microphones, and there's this incredible echo or feedback with it. So we got her, I believe, taken care of, knock on wood. It's technology, so we're working out the kinks.
That's great, Deb.
Yes, IT and Digital Horizons, the vendor that did that for us, have worked diligently, and Amy Kwalzik was an integral part of that too, because of how she works with the Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission. We set up this station to really be as easy as possible for anyone who comes in and just identify. There's a cord here, and that cord that goes right into that station right at the admin spot at the dais has a docking station that has all of the connections built into it. And so instead of having a million different cords and a bunch of different options, Scott from Digital Horizons and Amy in IT really did a good job of trying to make it so it's relatively seamless. So when we pull this in, or if any of you would do that too, I mean, it's you got to pick the right options. And before the meeting started, I know JJ and I were kind of testing where I can pick the microphone, I can pick the camera, we can pick the speakers, so we can either utilize our existing computer or we can utilize the entire room. And then within that Crestron piece that's sitting at my station also on the dais, that can control a lot more too. And so I can start recording, start streaming, stop, I'm streaming. So there really is, it's kind of like the control center for the room technology, and they've done a good job setting it up. Takes a little getting used to for an old person like me, but I'm getting it.
I like it.
All right. So I wanted to let you know that exists, and we are getting set up and ready to go for getting back in the building, but yet recognizing some different tools that can be used to make sure everybody's still safe. I think that's it for me, Mr. Chair, other than Greg kind of alluded to on Tuesday, the board meeting for the organizational organizational meeting will occur at 9. I have Judge Wetzel coming down in person to swear in the 3 of you that are starting your new terms. And we will do that at the outset of the meeting, call the meeting to order, and then we deal with a typical annual business, which is appoint or elect the board chair, vice chair, and then all of the annual resolutions. This is the last meeting that Commissioner Lemire is serving as chair. I have a certificate here for your wall. And I want to just say thanks. It's been a weird year. It's been a crazy year. And so wanted to say thanks for your patience. Thanks for your work. I think we declared more emergencies in a very short period of time than I have since I was doing this the last 12 years. So I appreciate the work you've done and the tolerance you've had of me trying to kind of fumble through uncharted territories this past, 9 months, 8, 7, 8, 12, it seems like. So I appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's all teamwork, and I appreciate each and every one of you and everything you do. Commissioner Wilson?
Oh, you're muted, Mike.
I didn't want to have him hear what I was saying about him.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for the great job you've done. It's been a trying year with all the things that we've gone through, and you've done a wonderful job with being chair. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Mike. All right. Anything else, Deb?
No, I don't think so. We're closed tomorrow, just as a reminder, but we'll be here Monday morning. Randy's laughing. I don't know. You never know what he's saying.
Oh, I wondered what Blaine's thinking. That's what I wanted. But
Well, what am I thinking?
all right.
I want to let you know though, as we're trying to keep a tradition here, so you have the responsibility when we make a motion to adjourn, you have to make that motion for your,
I do.
to go. Yes, you do when we adjourn. So as a chair, because that'll be your last, I don't think you've ever made a motion yet, have you this year?
Nope.
There you
I
go.
almost
So
had
that-
to today.
There you, I know, yeah. So when we're
All
ready
right.
to adjourn, I would think that you should make that motion to adjourn.
All right, but
So
do we need to do committee reports?
Yes, the schedule that Tabitha's looking for is January 3rd through the 9th.
January 3rd through the 9th. Commissioner Wilson, are you ready?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Just a
Anybody ready?
minute though.
Commissioner Winter? Muted. Randy, you're muted.
Randy, you're muted.
Should I
Randy.
do-
All right. Go
Should I
ahead,
do
Mike.
mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, on the 5th, we've got a board meeting.
Randy,
At 9.
you're muted. He's
We've
still
got a
talking.
board meeting at 9 o'clock. We got a budget meeting afterwards at 11. I've got community development at 12:15. And it looks like a board of adjustments at 7 o'clock that night.
No.
And then on the 8th, we got TSWAC at the public building over there. And
Public Works.
Public Works, yep. And on the 12th, we got a meeting at the boardroom planning session. That's all I have.
Thank you. And myself, you got me taken care of. Commissioner Winter?
okay, I was, whatever, I couldn't hear. Do we have a planning session also on the 12th at the boardroom? Do we have that for Tuesday? Did we say that?
We're only going to the 9th.
Oh, that's why we didn't say
Yeah,
it.
that's what I thought.
Okay. I have a budget meeting. Do we have that? I missed
We
all
do.
this.
We
Yep.
do, thank you. That will be a meeting, and I meant to mention that, so I appreciate that, Commissioner Winter, about an initial discussion to get the business relief program rolling.
And did you mention the Board of Adjustments? You did that already. Okay, then I'm
Yep.
good.
And TSWAC, did you get that, Randy, on Friday, the 8th?
No, but I kind of knew, but thank you. I got that
And
now too.
it's at the Public Works Department.
Right. All right, thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Jelinski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 5th of January, we remember, we just talked about it. We're starting at 8 o'clock in the morning because we're going to see our new machines.
That's right.
At 1 o'clock that afternoon, I've got an emergency communication network conference planning meeting. That's going to be virtual. At 10 o'clock on the 7th, I've got a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting. It's a WebEx meeting. And on the 8th, I don't believe I will be attending, but at 10 o'clock, there's a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting, and that would be virtual also. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zelinski. Commissioner Blaine.
I have nothing to add.
All right, very good. That should take care of everybody. Thank you for that wonderful year, gentlemen, and thanks for all the help. Appreciate it very much. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that,
Second.
Mr. Chair.
Motion and a
You're
second.
awesome.
Roll call. Commissioner Winter,
All right.
Commissioner Zelinski,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, and myself, aye. Meeting adjourned.
We'll
Happy-
see you next year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.